Multiple legal challenges and inquiries into whether or not Donald Trump is constitutionally disqualified from holding office because of his participation in the January 6th insurrection are now proceeding, with the strongest lawsuit coming out of Colorado, according to at least one preeminent constitutional scholar. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, folks, so we have Lawrence Tribe. He's a professor emeritus of constitutional law at Harvard University. He is one of, if not the most widely celebrated constitutional scholars in modern history. And he's making the case that a particular lawsuit filed in Colorado is the strongest to make the case that Donald Trump is disqualified from holding office because he violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment by either engaging in and or aiding and abetting, giving aid and comfort to those who did engage in an insurrection. This is a case that's coming out of Colorado. It's being represented by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, a legal nonprofit called Crew. We've referred to their sources multiple times in multiple videos, not just pertaining to this issue, but a variety of issues pertaining to legal and political corruption. So I want to play some of an interview with Professor Tribe on MSNBC in which he breaks down why this case is so telling, so instructive, and so formidable, and may very well carry the day.
Why is this challenge in Colorado the important one?
The reason, and I can't imagine interrupting the president, but it is what it is. And I think this is terribly important because who the next president will be certainly depends in part on who's qualified to run. Mm-hmm. And the qualifications include not having taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and then committed insurrection against the Constitution and the principles for which it stands. Colorado is a special place in that respect because, unlike many other states, Colorado has a specific statute which allows registered voters to take the Secretary of State to court and demand that the Secretary of State exclude anyone who doesn't meet all of the qualifications, even at the primary stage.
Because I want to say here, other states have actually rejected some of these lawsuits. There was in Arizona, I think it was either with Donald Trump or somebody else related to January 6th some time ago. They made the case that under Arizona law, citizens do not have a right to simply challenge the qualifications of another candidate. Another case in Florida, filed by a Republican against Donald Trump, was just thrown out within the past few weeks for the same thing, lack of standing. They were like, listen, you may have a case here, but you don't have standing as one citizen to another to challenge a person's qualifications to run for office. However, in Colorado, the situation is different because Colorado state law allows citizens to do just that.
And of course, one of those qualifications is that you not have committed what amounts to treason against the Constitution. The Secretary is, in this lawsuit, going to be required to conduct a hearing. She's not just supposed to shoot from the hip or offer an opinion from the top of her head. She's supposed to hold a hearing based on all of the evidence that's been gathered ever since January 6th on how the president tried to overturn a fair and free election by illegal means, including not just fomenting a violent insurrection, but also giving aid and comfort to that insurrection through a number of methods, including fake electoral slates. That hearing is now going to take place in Georgia unless the state trial court refuses to enforce the state statute. That's not likely. Whatever the conclusion of that hearing, it's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And Judge Ludig and I both, even though we disagree on a lot of things ideologically, believe that taking seriously every part of the Constitution is absolutely essential to the continuation of the American Republic.
Well, thanks to you, we're all reading our...
So the interview is about 15 minutes long, and it's very, very good. Any interview with Professor Tribe is, I mean, if you're a nerd for the Constitution and political science the way I am, and I imagine many of you are, it's a really good interview. You should watch it in full. But anyway, it's also illustrative in the sense that Professor Tribe further expounds on the process by which he's saying, listen, the Secretary of State, who is the state's highest election official in Colorado, is not supposed to simply just shoot from the hip, right? There's supposed to be a fact-finding process in which they carefully consider what an insurrection is, Donald Trump's actions, how he may or may not have engaged in insurrection or given aid and comfort to an insurrection as well. Now, Professor Tribe and Judge Ludig and various conservative scholars, lifelong conservative scholars, agree that Donald Trump did indeed violate Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But it's an interesting commentary. It's an interesting case because they're saying that the state law affords them standing. And actually, the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, I think they're all Republican. They're either all Republican or unaffiliated plaintiffs. So it's not Democrats making this lawsuit. It's actually Republicans, people who say that, it's basically Donald Trump's own party holding him accountable on a constitutional basis. I think this is fascinating. This is, as I've said, in terms of the challenges to Donald Trump's candidacy. This, to me, is as important, if not more, than the various criminal challenges against him, not to minimize those. But Donald Trump not only violated the law in terms of criminal statutes, I think the cases are pretty compelling there, but he's also violated the Constitution as well. So no matter where no matter how you slice it, no matter which vector or you choose from which you come at this, Donald Trump is clearly unqualified to be president. Now, what I will say as a reminder is even if he's convicted in these criminal cases by Jack Smith or Fani Willis or Alvin Bragg, none of these charges, even if he's found guilty, preclude him from running for or indeed even winning or indeed even holding the office of the presidency. Now, this constitutional question about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, that would be the only way, if found successful, that Donald Trump would be barred from office. So it'll be fascinating to see where this goes. I'm with Professor Tribe. I think it'll one way or another be litigated in front of the Supreme Court, and it's anybody's guess how they'll decide.